And I want to bring you some breaking news now. The former England manager, Sven-Goran Eriksson, has died following a battle with cancer. He was 76 years old. He had pancreatic cancer and at the beginning of the year revealed that he only had a year to live at best. The Swede became the first foreign manager of the England men's football team in 2001, coaching the so-called golden generation of players, including David Beckham, Steven Gerrard, Wayne Rooney and Frank Lampard. Now, during his career, he managed a string of high-profile European clubs such as Benfica, Roma, Fiorentina, Sampdoria and Lazio. Eriksson left the England role after the 2006 World Cup and would later manage Mexico and the Ivory Coast, as well as the English clubs Manchester City and Leicester City. Let's go now to Rob Harris, our sports correspondent. And Rob, that breaking news now, the Sven-Goran Eriksson, former England manager, of course, has died.
Yes, devastating news for Sven-Goran Eriksson's family. After living through quite an extraordinary last year or so after he revealed his battle with pancreatic cancer, it was in January that he revealed that he could no longer really be treated. And it did allow him this farewell over several months. He was able to sort of see all the tributes to him over recent months, celebrating his career so memorably at Anfield in March, where he fulfilled his dream of managing of Liverpool for one time, and it was a Legends match, and the acclaim of the Anfield crowd is something that many will live long in the memory. But for Sven-Goran Eriksson, he was really a charismatic figure. He was someone who helped to transform English football by becoming the first foreign manager of the men's national team and really leading an quite incredible era from 2001 to 2006. It was that golden generation era where he really had to balance out the celebrity culture that was engulfing with the team, as well as these really high expectations that they could finally end the wait for silverware since 1966. And his achievements with the team, while he didn't actually manage to ever take them to glory, the quarterfinals are set against perhaps the struggles of his predecessors and successors in that role. And it's something that has been foremost on people's minds over the last few days, because a documentary of his life was released just last week, and it was really his farewell, not only to his family, his public, and indeed many fans, a celebration of his career that took him from the lower leagues in Sweden, how he managed to climb through from the unfancied Swedish leagues all the way through to managing one of the greats of European football, Benfica. He really had to go against the trend, and people unexpected to see this figure who'd emerged from coaching in Sweden taking such a role, then into Italy, where he achieved such acclaim over a 15-year period. And that's when in 2001, when England really needed a manager to take them into the new century, why they turned to Sven-Goran Eriksson. And it was a very tough time for him. He had to face the challenge of his nationality being questioned, whether or not it was the right time for a non-Englishman to be able to take charge of the team. In fact, he thought the approach from the FA was originally a joke, and he dismissed it for a time. He then did reconsider and really had to grapple not only with the expectations of the team, but also dealing with the huge media attention and the spotlight that was so challenging, and did have its difficulties as well. The fact that only discovering really in later years how he was an apparent victim of phone hacking as well, which did destabilise him in terms of having his private life being raked over and exposed through potentially nefarious means. So that was all he had to try to grapple with. But certainly he was a gentleman. He was someone who so many saw the charm that he brought to the job. He rarely seemed to be troubled by the huge attention, the huge focus on it, and he really dealt with it in his stride. And, if we look back at his tournaments, he reached the quarterfinals at the 2002 World Cup, Euro 2004, the World Cup 2006, where, he experienced the anguish of so many England managers that have experienced, which is penalties that ultimately did indeed deny him the chance of taking them further, when he really thought that they were able to go on to finally lift the trophy, but losing in the quarterfinal. This is a period with David Beckham, Wayne Rooney as well. He had the tail end of Michael Owen's career, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard. These were so many of the greats of the game, and he really had to, though, contend with injuries to these players at various times, like Wayne Rooney and David Beckham, when the whole nation was trying to sort of will them on to become fit for the tournaments, to be able to take them on to success. But ultimately, while he didn't manage to achieve that and left after 2006, he really did have this hunger and desire to stay within football. And that's why within a year of leaving the England job, he ended up at Manchester City, at a very different era to the one now, before the influx of huge investment. In fact, he had to contend with the very contentious ownership of the former Thai Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. And at the time then, he did leave after just a year in that role, but then continued to take more jobs, like in Mexico with the national team there, the Ivory Coast, managing in China as well, and the Philippines, and also at Leicester City long before they became the Premier League champions so unexpectedly. And this really showed how the person who came from being a PE teacher in a small Swedish town rose to the very peaks of football, and to fact managing England, the impossible job, as it was so often seen, taking one of the big jobs in world football, and a job that he reflected on at times with Tony Blair when he was Prime Minister, about how they share the dual pressures of that role. But certainly someone who was very committed to football, and he's lived the last few months in terms of with this great difficulties through the struggle with pancreatic cancer, but giving him this chance to be celebrated and to say farewell.
Rob, stay with us, because we've just had a statement from the family. Let me read it to you. Sven-Goran Eriksson has passed away after a long illness. He died during the morning at home, surrounded by family. The closest mourners are his daughter Lina, son Johan with wife Amana and granddaughter Sky, his father Sven, girlfriend Janisette and son Alcides, brothers Lars Erik and wife Yumnong. The family asks for respect for their wish to mourn in private and not be contacted. Condolences and greetings can be left on the website Sven-Goran-Eriksson.com. So that breaking news story that we've got over the past few minutes, the death of former England manager Sven-Goran Eriksson, who has died at the age of 76 after a long fight with pancreatic cancer. He did, Rob Harris mentioned it a little bit earlier, in an interview a while ago, Sven-Goran Eriksson mentioned that he had wanted to manage Liverpool, and that actually did happen for one day. So he managed to make that dream come true as well. So he was England manager. A lot of questions had been asked over his nationality. He did put the team forward 2001, 2004, 2006, and of course the loss at penalties there. Well known also, it has to be said, for his sometimes colourful life, but obviously a very special person in the world of football. So that breaking news, again, Sven-Goran Eriksson has died at the age of 76.